Music, Don't Come. The fact that that shot was the season's last shot was a surprise to me until I watched it. That was really out there though. In Dynasty, the primetime television series that dominated the 1980s, Pamela Bellwood played Claudia Carrington, a delicate yet fierce lady who once had everyone in America yelling her name. On the very marble floors of high society, a multifaceted individual with melancholy eyes who harbors family secrets, longing romances, and times of collapse. However, Pamela was never a lady who craved attention in real life. She never aimed to leave a legacy based on notoriety, nor did she seek recognition or cause scandals. Then she left, just as Dynasty was at its height. Not because she was fading, not because she was being driven out. To take care of her family, have a child, and leave the stage while she was still in the lead. She discreetly slipped away from the spotlight. In a time when female celebrities frequently had to pay a high price for fame, Pamela Bellwood's journey from Broadway to Beverly Hills, from television star to unnamed mother, is a unique chapter. What led a rising star to decide to vanish, and what's left after the glitz wears off? Even if this narrative isn't very dramatic or controversial, it will undoubtedly touch you. Childhood. On June 26, 1951, Pamela Bellwood was born in America's most glittering city, New York City. However, she was raised in a household unrelated to the entertainment industry. Pamela Ann King was her birth name. Her parents both had regular occupations. The family had never been on stage, and no one could have predicted that the quiet girl with the dark brown hair and the serene eyes would grow up to be one of the most recognizable faces on American television. Pamela Bellwood had two parallel universes even as a little child. A humble home in the center of New York created one of order and reality, while another was full of drama and emotion, with each syllable carrying the weight of a theatrical line. She would frequently see herself in many characters, rehearsing every look and breath while standing in front of the mirror. After graduating from high school, Pamela chose to attend the theater's local Playhouse School, one of the most prominent establishments in New York, rather than taking the safe route like the majority of her colleagues. She studied the Meisner method there, which requires the actor to be completely honest with their emotions. Pamela Bellwood was not just a talented actor, but also a storyteller who could convey a lot with a glance or a quiet moment, because to this foundation of self-control and emotional intensity. Pamela left for London in her early 20s, not to make a splash but to quietly take in more. She broadened her perspective and gained a deeper understanding of classical stagecraft throughout a year of study and rehearsal in the British capital. She wasn't just a New York girl when she came back to America. She had developed into an artist with American storytelling instincts and European discipline. Broadway's dazzling lights and a leading role weren't the beginning of Pamela Bellwood's artistic career. Backstage, the script was tightly gripped as they waited for her name to be called. However, the light had been shining within her for a long time, as they say. Early career. Pamela Bellwood didn't enter the acting profession by playing brief, supporting parts. She decided to start on the dramatic stage, which is where performance art is most rigorous and unadulterated. She portrayed Jill Tanner in Butterflies Are Free at the Parker Playhouse in Florida in 1971 when she was just 20 years old. A part that called for skillful acting and the capacity to portray intense emotion without going overboard with the stage. Only a year later, she was on Broadway in that exact role. Pamela Bellwood received the coveted Clarence Derwent Award for Best Supporting Actress on Broadway in 1972 for her performance as Jill, this time at the Booth Theater. It was not only a noteworthy personal accomplishment, but it also made it clear that she was a real actor who had been honed by technique and discipline rather than merely a screen beauty. Her name started to go out there. She played Emily in Our Town, one of the most famous American plays, and was asked to participate in important theater productions, including Finishing Touches with Broadway veteran Barbara Bel Geddes. Pamela Bellwood offered a deep reality to each performance, as though she were living another life in front of the audience rather than playing. She wasn't going to the stage, though. Pamela started switching to television in the late 1970s, a medium that the theatrical industry at the time still viewed with some suspicion. She wasn't there to test the waters, though. She came to establish her worth. She made appearances in a number of well-known TV shows, including Lou Grant, Chips, Roa, and Barnaby Jones. Her roles were modest, yet they always made an impression. She played Ellen Cunningham, a strong-willed female producer navigating the male-dominated television industry. In the short-lived series, Webb in 1978 landing her first major television role. Despite its brief run of 5 episodes, Webb was seen as innovative, and Pamela's portrayal was commended for its nuance and sincerity. She also took on a couple movie roles during that time. The Incredible Shrinking Woman, 1981, Airport 77, 1977, and 2-Minute Warning, 1976. These performances gave Pamela Bellwood the opportunity to display a broad spectrum of emotions. From subtle comedy to terror and anxiety, even though film wasn't where she made her biggest impression. By the end of the 1970s, Pamela had solidified her reputation as a talented and realistic actor who didn't owe her success to her looks or chance. Then, as the 1980s approached, the most significant turning point in her career was about to happen. She would become famous after a relatively unimportant TV part. Claudia played that part, and Dynasty was the show. Dynasty was a huge hit. Pamela Bellwood was asked to play a supporting part in the television drama Dynasty in 1981 as ABC got ready to debut a new show to rival CBS's Dallas. Although she wasn't one of Hollywood's most popular stars at the time, her portrayal of Claudia Blale captured viewers' attention so strongly in a few episodes that the writers had to change the original screenplay to keep her on for longer than intended. It was difficult to adore Claudia. She was a woman with a history of mental illness who had just been discharged from a mental health facility. She was betrayed by her husband, heartbroken by the loss of her daughter, and thrown into a world of luxury and power where she obviously didn't belong. Claudia became a symbol because of her survival instinct and delicate sensitivity. She wasn't presented by Pamela as a helpless victim. Through her gaze, through quiet, through simmering anger on the verge of erupting, she performed. Claudia became a key figure each time she was pushed to the edge as Dynasty entered its most dramatic and successful era. She changed from being a sensitive stranger to Stephen Carrington's erratic lover, and then to Adam Carrington's wife in a turbulent, jealous, and ultimately tragic marriage. Claudia was viewed by audiences as a symbol of the profound discomfort experienced by outsiders in an elite society rather than as a mad side character. Millions of Americans flocked to their televisions every Wednesday night to see the drama involving the Carrington family during the 1980s. When primetime soap operas were at their height, Dynasty peaked as #1 in 1985, top of the Nielsen rankings. Millions of people got to know Pamela Bellwood through calm strength and a strong emotional connection with female viewers, rather than through ostentatious appearances or scandalous tricks. However, Pamela abruptly left the show at the conclusion of Season 6, 1986, just as viewers were still captivated by Claudia. Just one straightforward reason: no backstage controversies or drama. She desired to give her whole attention to raising her newborn kid and taking care of her family. Pamela made the decision to quit during a time when actresses were supposed to give up all for stardom. Many viewers were devastated by the death of Claudia Carrington, a lady who was devoured by fire after a mental breakdown. However, it was the proper way for Pamela to end a chapter in which she had invested herself. She didn't let Claudia to subtly disappear. She provided her with a tragic conclusion that was appropriate for all that the character had gone through. Pamela Bellwood rejoined the original cast of Catfights and Caviar for the special Dynasty reunion in 2006. I made fun of Basor, not in a glitzy or pretentious way, but with a kind grin as she talked about Claudia. As if she were a longtime friend she had once adored, inhabited, and then abandoned. Dynasty's popularity cemented Pamela Bellwood's reputation in American television history. Not by show or cacophony, but through a part so unvarnished and tragic that it continues to be discussed decades later. And one of the most eerie scenes from 1980s television is still Claudia's sad eyes, private life. Pamela Bellwood took a nearly entirely different route in an era when popular actresses were frequently linked to backstage scandals, whirlwind affairs, or tabloid divorces. She never sought public approval, rarely made headlines, and never sparked a public hysteria. But beneath that peaceful life is a tale of self-possession, sacrifice, and decision-making by a lady who wouldn't compromise her family's happiness for the spotlight. Pamela married British playwright Peter Bellwood for the first time in the 1970s, when she was in her 20s and just starting her theatrical career. She kept the name Bellwood as part of her professional identity despite their brief engagement and their discreet breakup, demonstrating that she never felt the need to erase the past but instead respected it as something that influenced her development. Pamela's second marriage took place in 1984 at the height of Dynasty's prosperity. This time to Nick Wheeler, a photographer who works in the creative industry but is not at all famous in Hollywood. Carrie Wheeler, their first child, was born a year later. Pamela took a risk, while many celebrities of the era were chasing new parts and filming schedules. She turned off endorsement deals, left a popular television show, and became a full-time mother. She gave a straightforward response when questioned about why she abruptly vanished from the screen. "Being a mother is a role I couldn't replace, even though I felt I had done everything I needed to do with Claudia. A magazine cover was not necessary to prove her value." Many actresses of the era had to give up their careers to live a quiet life, which Pamela chose in order to raise her kid and protect her family. No controversies, no revealed extramarital affairs, and no charges from co-stars or peers. In the cacophonous world of entertainment, Pamela Bellwood was practically a mystery. She reportedly allegedly refused an on-screen kiss while pregnant out of concern that it would harm her health, according to a few little whispers that circulated around the film industry. But rather than being criticized, she was respected for her integrity and values. She and Nick Wheeler are still together in California now. Carrie Wheeler, their son, has also pursued a career in the arts, but he has never relied on his mother's heritage and has developed a distinctive style. The family avoids the limelight, stays out of the spotlight, avoids red carpets, and stays away from the loud comeback trend that many former celebrities follow. Perhaps for Pamela Bellwood, real success isn't determined by accolades, but rather by having the guts to live a life that doesn't require proof to anyone and knowing when to give up. Impact and legacy. Pamela Bellwood left behind a unique kind of legacy in the hectic and fast-paced world of entertainment, where names frequently shine brilliantly before fading just as soon. Like the character she once poured her heart into, she is quiet, subtle, and resilient. Dynasty's Claudia Blay Del Carrington. Although she wasn't the main character like Linda Evans or Joan Collins, Claudia had a frightening presence and psychological depth that no one else could match. Claudia wasn't like the conventional female leads of 1980s television dramas. She wasn't incredibly affluent, gorgeous, or sly, but she was real. Because of her genuineness, Pamela Bellwood became the face of a type of woman that Hollywood frequently overlooked. She is weak, hurt, conflicted, and trying to figure out where she fits in a world that was not made for her. Claudia Carrington's continued appearance on lists of the most sympathetic or sad television characters from the 1980s is no accident. Claudia was able to rise above the limitations of a supporting part because to Pamela's performance, and she now represents women who have been harmed but are unwilling to give up. Pamela Bellwood's impact on stage is just as significant outside of television. Her reputation in theater was solidified early on by the Clarence Derwent Award she was given in 1972. Pamela demonstrated her value by being disciplined and serious about her work during a period when actresses were frequently judged by their appearance or ability to sell a part. Finishing touches weren't only career milestones, and productions like Butterflies are free. They served as evidence of the solid base that enabled her to vividly and realistically depict Claudia. Her commitment to coaching aspiring performers is another aspect of her legacy that is more subdued but no less significant. She spent several years teaching and coaching acting in Los Angeles after leaving the spotlight. No press interviews, no gaudy publicity. Pamela made the decision to share her experience with others by being serious, disciplined, and emotionally honest. She once studied in accordance with the Meisner technique. Learning from Pamela Bellwood was more than just a technical course for a lot of young artists. It was an experience of the real performing spirit. Devoted admirers still remember Pamela Bellwood as one of the iconic television personalities of the 1980s, despite the fact that she never took home an Emmy or starred in a multi-million-dollar movie, because she opted to be enduring when many actors opted to be loud. And that perseverance is what really endures in a field that is known for its short memory. Life in the present. Even though Pamela Bellwood is in her 70s and no longer frequently appears on TV or on red carpets, she hasn't entirely left the art world behind. Few actors have the guts to choose a life of passion and calm after the glittering limelight of Dynasty, as Pamela did. Pamela now resides in a comfortable house in California with her husband, photographer Nick Wheeler. They've spent over 40 years together, an unusually long trip in the entertainment sector. She keeps up a stable family life, instilling in their son Carrie Wheeler values based on independence, kindness, and the arts. Pamela acknowledges in the few interviews she has given that her family has helped her stay grounded and balanced throughout her career, particularly after leaving the spotlight. Although Pamela no longer regularly performs in theater, she still makes a modest contribution to the arts by educating. She teaches budding actors her philosophy and experience in small acting classes around Los Angeles. For her, being able to listen, feel, and live authentically in every moment is more important than celebrity when it comes to acting. She treats the Meisner approach as a personal legacy that is valuable to preserve and transmit. And she still employs it, the precise technique that allowed her to thrive as Claudia Carrington. Pamela Bellwood hasn't written a memoir recounting her heyday, she doesn't make an appearance in reality shows, and she doesn't participate in ostentatious advertising campaigns. She doesn't need 5 million social media followers to establish her value, she prefers to remain silent, but with a quiet pride, as though to say, I lived fully through my roles, and now it's time to live fully for myself. Pamela Bellwood is remembered by those who once loved Claudia Carrington, the delicate and fiercely proud woman. Not because she was the most well-known, but because she was the most genuine. How do you feel about Pamela Bellwood's subdued yet bold decision? Tell us what you think of her adventure. Don't forget to think back to the time Claudia made a lasting effect on you if you watched Dynasty. Remember to like and subscribe so that we may keep learning more about the lives of the celebrities who made an impression on our hearts.